So I'm Grant Hightower. I'm the medical director at Reading Public Schools.
That's my husband.
So there's always a lot to balance when you watch a man die. But for decades, many Americans have done just that. Always finding a way to remain stable, finding a way to move on from what they see clearly happening, the sudden imbalance in our society. For me, particularly when it's race-related, it's always the physical and emotional juggling act that wears me down. Intellectually, I understand that all of a race or a profession are not defined by the actions of the few. Physically, my response is the need to protect my children and wife, not only from the prospect of their loss of mortality, but also potentially witnessing mine. So emotionally, I'm torn. Not in what I need to do, but in how I view you all. My white neighbors who reside in communities of inaction. It's the inaction of those witnessing wrongdoing that cuts deepest. It contributes to the loss of faith, a boiling over of disappointment that eventually explodes in the streets, playing out decade after decade after decade. The ask from black and brown folks has never changed. Civility among us, equal access to liberty and justice between us. But the response to those asks has also gone unchanged. Dogs, gas, clubs, rhetoric to invoke fear in communities like this about people who look like me. But I do not fully blame the police for the situation we find ourselves in. These are your sons and daughters. They are products of the communities that either refuse to speak about race or only allow for one perspective on it. As members of this community, have you ever taken the time to look in the mirror as you prepare for your day and ask, what have you done to make your lives better? If given the opportunities to engage in a matter of race, did you? Or did you turn an eye wide shut to what you know to be wrong? Have the choices you've been making helped build the world in which you wish to live and raise your children? Have you ever taken the time to make others' interactions with you worthwhile, to be patient enough to understand when you're spoken to? And that last line, to understand. It hasn't taken just 8 minutes and 46 seconds for you to all get this. Not just one riot, not just one death, not just one murder, not just one lynching, not just one history lesson on the birth of a nation. This has been 401 years of opportunity to understand. Of grace on behalf of my community. 401 years of passing down irrational fears at the expense of black and brown bodies. 401 years of passing down the same thoughts, practices, and violence that cause our people to erupt. 401. So when, if not now, when you finally feel vulnerable? There is no going back to the way things were. They have remained that way for too long. For us, there's only now so that there can even be a tomorrow. And where are you, my brothers and sisters in blue, when those bad apples you claim exist fall from your tree of honor and dignity? Where are you? Where are you when their actions directly impact your ability to go home safely and stay in the legacy of your profession? What is it to do the right thing? What really is that? It's to sacrifice everything for your beliefs. And as Chief David Clark said, what we witnessed was a failure in the most vital and solemn vocation of a police officer, to safeguard human life and instill a sense of safety in their community. So as a department, as a group of people dedicated to the belief that you are all that stands between the sheep and the wolves, I ask you choose to attack the wolf even when it's disguised in your uniform. For Reading PD, it's not about doing the right thing. I have confidence that Chief Clark is on the path as a man first, a leader second, and an officer third. But the next step is modeling that mindset, demanding that call to action from each officer across the state and across the country. We are all off balance, reeling, and the sad thing is many of you hope this work results in going back to a normal that no longer exists. We are hanging on to a rope that can no longer hold our weight. So now we're forced to find new footing. So to this community I say, it is the work you are courageous to do today that lays the foundation for your children and in essence, your future. There's a lot to balance when you watch a man die. So how are you going to do it? All my love.